What's up, everybody? Welcome to podcast now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about The Sims. I've talked about this franchise a couple of times before, and I think it's a legendary one. I think it's one that's probably lost its way and doesn't have the highest popular, or public opinion anymore. All right, but I mean, Sims 2 is probably one of my most played games. Period. I think it's the best one, but it's the one I played probably thousands of hours when I was younger. So. We've talked a little bit about this franchise before, and, the idea of something Sims 5 or something close to it, and then most likely that being canceled, right? And now, seemingly, what is probably being worked on is like a mobile kind of companion thing, where, it's just going to be a mobile Sims. That seems to be how we're doing this. And then I saw this very interesting article that talked about, Sims 5 is just flat out, doesn't seem like it's going to happen. So the title here from Dexerto, EA won't release The Sims 5 because players would lose 10 years of DLC. And they say, speaking to Variety, the president of EA, addressed why the company isn't rushing to release a Sims 5 sequel. The reason is the mountain of DLC players have accumulated for The Sims 4. What I wouldn't want to have happen is you have to start from day zero and start from scratch and give up all the things that you have created, give up on all the content and that you have purchased over the years. That's a lot to lose. Since it's 2014, The Sims 4 has had over 85 expansions, game packs, and kits, many of which cost real money. EA admits asking players to abandon isn't player friendly. They also note that Sims 4 is now strong enough technologically that it doesn't need to be replaced with a new engine. EA is instead focused on spin-offs like the in-development multiplayer project codenamed Project Rene and the upcoming cross-media projects like The Sims Movie, which is in development at Amazon, MGM Studios, and Margot Robbie's Lucky Chap. So let me pause there. I mean, that's really like the biggest thing. I just kind of want to go off on a little bit of a rant. The system's broken, and that's a cliche thing to say. I kind of cringe when I hear it, so let me defend myself, okay? System is freaking broken. How dare you? Now, when you think about, like, they're trying to pretend like they're so user-friendly or consumer-friendly, right? Because they're like, well, you had 85 packs that you bought. There is a very specific, a couple different specific things in their excuse that destroys, like if you actually pick at it, destroys the entire thing. Number one, why are we starting over? And this is something that I pray to God that the people that still play The Sims 4 would ask. And they would have the smarts to, I'm not going to criticize people for spending money, but we have talked about like the crowd that just buys the Maddens every year and the FIFAs every year and the CODs every year. Do they contribute to like a worse gaming environment? Probably. I don't want to condemn them like I've seen others do. I mean, I try to not think about it, because if you do think about it, do they kind of ruin things? They kind of do, right? If you stop buying FIFA for a couple years, you'd get a good soccer game. If you stop buying Madden, Angry Joe wouldn't have his blood pressure raised, every August, okay? We can stop things. It's just we choose not to. I just really hope that's something people have thought of. Like, the argument's flawed. That's the word. I don't know why I couldn't think of it 5 seconds ago. Their argument's flawed. Why do we have to start over with The Sims 5? Then you could say, all right, 85 expansion packs. And I'll give that to you, all right? 85 packs. Do I expect all of that stuff to just join Sims 4 and then you move Sims 4 over to Sims 5? Not necessarily, but I still think pushback is kind of necessary because this is how they get away with it. I will say that, right? Like, what about half the new stuff? Also, isn't an argument for, well, why did The Sims 4 start that way? So you think about how Sims 4 started, and this is how they do it. This is how Maddens and funny enough, by the way, I'm accidentally saying a lot of EA properties, which is kind of ironic, right? But specifically, like, you look at Sims 2 to Sims 3, and then Sims 3 to Sims 4, and then Sims 4 to, like, a fictional Sims 5, right? And every time, what normally happens, what's a stigma that everybody talks about, is they do start from scratch. So, again, flawed argument. Number one, you always do that. And number two, you never should have in the first place. This is decades of mistakes catching up to you now because you did sit on this for so long, right? You never sat on the others as long. Still, though, when you had, and I would say Sims 2 to Sims 3 was the best transfer that we had gotten. I actually, again, like I prefer Sims 2 over 3 just because that's where I put so much time. But Sims 3 did make a lot of fundamental, I think, really good changes. But did some things get set back down to 0, like restarted where you had to wait 2 years for that expansion pack? Yeah, that happened. And then notoriously, Sims 3 to 4 really did it. That's where it's not like a myth, it's not an exaggeration. That's where they did it. When you bought all of the stuff for 3, you would think, well, let's just take all that stuff and carry it over. And in reality, they didn't do that. They really, Sims 4 was very close to Sims 3 base edition. And then you added back the packs that you had from Sims 3, you added that back into Sims 4, and then you kept going. So just, again, literally the beginning of the argument, why do you have to start from scratch? Of those 85 packs, is it not possible to put 40, 50, 60? Because let's be honest, some of these packs are just things, right? They literally, okay, it's just a chair and some colors and some skins. Can you not add that to the base game of Sims 5? All right, so that would be my first question, is why do you have to start from ground zero again? And then that's a flaw. I mean, that's an interesting question, because then they have to ask themselves, why have we always done it? And then just, that's really the crux of my argument, if I'm being honest with myself and with you. The only other thing I would say, and another reason that kind of made me want to make this video, this is an interesting thing that happens with games that are like this. Like, I think Dead by Daylight, and I think or Rocket League. Probably those two, to be honest with you. Obviously, different style and different types of games, but you think about sequels, right? You think about, okay, well, in the next game, they can tweak this and change that and really take that next step, like here. What we've gotten really in the last 10 years, and I just listed 2. I mean, For Honor is probably another one more up my alley that's a really good comparable. What we have here are games that are 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. And like Steam's full, like the PUBGs of the world and things like that. Like, there are games, Team Fortress still has players, but there's games that last forever. And when they last forever, they never jump to the next game. Now, one big reason for that is they don't want to fraction off their gamers, right? Sims should be different than that, right? Because all the games I listed are multiplayer heavy. Like if you, and I do get that, you make a Rocket League 2, you make a Dead by Daylight 2. Number one, first and foremost, is you're splintering like the player base, right? So you have 50,000 people concurrently, playing every day, whatever it might be. Maybe in all you have 200,000 people every day logging into Rocket League, right? Now you make a Rocket League 2, you're not guaranteed to get that full 200,000. You might get 120, and then that game might have 50, 60. I mean, the actual number would be like 80, right? Maybe you lose people. Maybe some people just flat out stop, and then you're breaking apart that number to try to bring them to like a Rocket League 2. So I do understand that, but like with The Sims, it's really different because it's more single player. The multiplayer component, by the way, like sharing and having these like creation tool-like things, those are things that should be like cross-compatible. Those are things that if you make it in Sims 4, it should work in Sims 5. Maybe not vice versa if you don't want to, right? So you make stuff for Sims 4. People that are still playing Sims 4 can create stuff. I guess, okay, yeah, you can obviously play it on Sims 4, and then you can move it to Sims 5. If you make things in Sims 5, just make it so you can't move it to Sims 4 because you're trying to attract people. You're trying to bring them over. It's to me, it's as easy as that. So even that argument or excuse, whatever you want to say, right, of like, okay, well, we're splintering the player base. I don't think you could do that. I mean, they didn't say that, to be fair. I'm kind of just creating it. But that normally is like number one with a lot of these games is we don't want to split the player base. With Sims, it's like, well, we don't want them to start at, like, again, ground zero or day one. I think I mentioned it in kind of like a passing term, but I think the idea of like never getting a sequel to be able to truly revolutionize it is also what makes me kind of upset. And that could just be me. I mean, I've thought that with like the Dead by Daylights of the world and even the Rocket Leagues and stuff. Look, there are some games that are just, this is the way that it is. Like, we really don't need to vastly change things. But like, I think if you really took 3, 4, 5 years to make a Dead by Daylight 2, let's say, put it out, say everything else, like you just got rid of the other external factors because there would be them. but I think you would make a far superior version because you're taking all the stuff that you learned and you're putting into a sequel, and you're really updating it in all of the best ways. Again, yeah, there's crossover, carryover of killers and survivors. I know there's other stuff, but I feel like that's how you get really major progress. Instead, we're trapped in these, well, we'll give you 85 updates. We'll give you 4 a year. You'll end up paying thousands of dollars for the ultimate Sims experience that won't end. We will never end it. And it also will never really be the greatest it can be, because I believe you probably need a new game, a Sims 5 back in the day. Okay, to really move on from The Sims 2 and make it the next great thing, you need The Sims 3. Same thing, for Sims 3, in order to make it the next great thing, you need The Sims 4. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's an outdated philosophy, but I feel like that jump is really only possible when you do the next game, on top of everything else that we just said. So obviously not pleased by it. I don't really play The Sims 4 almost at all. I did when it first came out, and I played The Sims 3 a good amount, played The Sims 2 for thousands of hours. So I feel like I deserve to, I think I can talk about it. I feel like my opinion should be heard by at least one person. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.